What's going on, you guys? Welcome on back to the channel. Now, with My Hero Vigilantes coming up in just a few months, I figured now's the time for me, as someone that's just getting into Vigilantes, to kind of talk about what I'm most looking forward to with this series because I know from what I've learned about it, it's kind of a departure from MHA. It's kind of like different in its own way, which I like. So, pretty much, we're just going to be going over what I'm most excited for when it comes to Vigilantes. First and foremost, the main thing that I'm mostly looking forward to is essentially the change in setting. And what I mean by that is My Hero Academia has always been focused like in a school setting. Yes, we had Deku as a vigilante for a little bit in the series, but like that was only one arc. We didn't really get to explore that for too long before we started gearing up for the final war and all that. So the main thing that I'm excited for is I'm ready to just see heroes acting as vigilantes in a vigilante format throughout the entirety of a run. Like that's essentially what I'm most excited for with this. I want to see how these people act without like the hero agencies looming over them. How do they act? How do they go about solving problems and all that? Like Knuckle Duster, he may look like an All Might clone, but how does he handle things in comparison to All Might? Like does he have like a moral code? Does he have a moral compass? What exactly is he all about? That's what I'm most looking forward to. How do these vigilante characters act within the world of MHA? Next, another thing that I'm really looking forward to is pretty much just seeing how Koichi is as a character. Now, Koichi, from what I've seen of the trailer, he already looks, at least to me, a little bit different than Deku as a character, which I like. Deku was someone that was like shy and nervous and all that, but Koichi strikes me as someone who's kind of like more daring than Deku in a way, simply because he's willing to become a vigilante in order to achieve his goal of being a hero. Like he's pretty much accepted for himself that he's never going to be getting into one of these schools. So how else can I become a hero than act as a vigilante? Which I think is a really cool premise because in stories like these, you always expect like the protagonist to go about like the right way of doing things similar to how Deku did. But what happens when you take a protagonist who could have gone that way, but you have him go the completely opposite way and become a vigilante? Like, does his actions now become like painted with a different hue because he didn't go the traditional route of protagonist and instead went the route of the vigilante? That's what I'm most looking forward to. Seeing how like seeing how Koichi as a character essentially is a different contrast from Deku. Like like I said, how does he go about solving problems similar to Knuckle Duster? Like does Koichi have a code? How does Koichi deal with his quirk? Because at least from what I've seen in the trailer, it looks like he's kind of embarrassed by his quirk. If I'm interpreting that correctly, it kind of looks like he's embarrassed by it. So does he learn to fully embrace it as the story goes on? Like, does he have to go through like his own like little character arc of learning to come to terms with his quirk and learning to accept it and learning to love it as a part of himself? That's what I'm most looking forward to with Koichi. Like him like learning self-love for his quirk, which I think could be really cool, like a really cool premise. Next, another thing that I'm really, really looking forward to is everything that could potentially go on with Aizawa. Now, as someone who's never read Vigilantes, I know that a lot of Aizawa's backstory happens in Vigilantes. And coming from someone that's really only seen MHA and the manga for MHA, like so much of Aizawa's backstory is left in Vigilantes with everything with his friend. So I'm honestly surprised that Vigilantes was never adapted sooner, like during season 5 or something like that. Like, I'm surprised they didn't adapt this sooner, so that way the anime onlys could really fully understand Aizawa's backstory to complement season 5. But I guess it was probably like a business decision because they know MHA's ending, so they want to have something to coincide with the ending. I don't know. Maybe that's why they're doing it. But anyway, I'm most excited to see how Aizawa acts in a Vigilantes setting. That's what I'm most looking forward to. Aizawa in his prime, man. Like, does Aizawa have some sort of like deep rooted anger now in Vigilantes because of the loss of his friend? Like, has he like truly like processed it properly? Or has he been doing unhealthy coping mechanisms and taking it out on Vigilantes? As we see in the trailer, him and Knuckle Duster have a little bit of an altercation. So does Aizawa essentially take out his frustrations on Vigilantes and not really like coincide with like the hero agencies? He kind of like defers from them and he goes about his own way. That would be pretty cool. Because Eraser always struck me as a hero that kind of has a little bit of a dark side to him. Like that's what I always liked about Aizawa, and I wish that it was explored more. Like Aizawa's past, Aizawa as a character before MHA. Yes, it's talked about in the main show, but you don't really get to see a lot of it. This you're going to be able to get to see his backstory for what it truly was, I think. And I cannot wait to see more about Aizawa because he's one of my favorite characters in MHA. So the fact that we're going to get to see him in his prime before his injuries to the Nomu in season 1 and his eyes getting all messed up because of like overusing his quirk. What is Aizawa like in his prime when he doesn't have any of those limitations holding him back? I can't wait for that, man. Vigilantes is just going to be such a good series. I cannot wait to watch this. Like, this is a show, and like I said, I'm so excited for this. Like, this is probably going to be the last thing I talk about. I'm so excited for Vigilantes because it's something different with MHA. Like, MHA, at least to me, kind of feels like it was repeating the same things, going in circles. Vigilantes feels like a complete different show. And I like that a lot. As someone who's never seen it, someone who's never read it, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that show. Because My Hero, at least to me, started getting a little bit not as good and a little stale and repetitive around after season 4. And that's kind of like when the anime started to fall off for me. So, like with like narrative wise and all that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how is a My Hero like product look like tackled without being shackled by like MHA as a whole. How does this show function without that essentially? And that's what I'm most looking forward to. I know it's in the same universe, but I think I'm treating this as like its own show. And I cannot wait to see what happens next with it. But let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel about My Hero Vigilantes and my thoughts on it? What do you guys think? Do you guys think similar to me that it has the potential to be completely different and potentially even better than MHA? Or do you think the complete opposite? Let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Bye.